Hello and welcome to The Big Fight, where we are once again turning our attention to the Land Acquisition Bill, which has just come back from the Standing Committee of Parliament. Many people believe that this is going to be one of the most crucial bills that is going to be coming up this year, the last few years, perhaps in a long, long time, because of the impact it has on the lives of so many millions and millions of people. The Standing Committee has said made some suggestions to what the government had done, and we'll have to see what the government finally comes back with. And joining us today on The Big Fight to take us through all aspects of this, what the Standing Committee has said and what the bill itself should contain, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Sumitra Mahajan, who's chairperson of the Parliamentary Standing Committee. We also have with us Mani Shankar Iyer, a former Union Minister, who's also on the Standing Committee. It's great to have you with us. Pinaki Mishra, a lawyer, BJP MP, slightly different views on some of what has been happening out here. Kamal Farooqi, National Secretary of the Samajwadi Party. What the Samajwadi Party says on the land bill is going to be crucial whenever it does come up in probably in the monsoon session of Parliament. Dr. Rajiv Kumar, Secretary General of FICCI, it's great to have you with us because industry has expressed a certain amount of concerns, and we'll be hearing why you are concerned. And Sanjay Parekh, Senior Advocate at the Supreme Court, has done a lot of work on land-related issues and particularly on rehabilitation. We're also being joined by Rajiv Talwar, Group Executive Director of DLF. But I just want to start off, if you will bear with me, to set the stage for this. At the end of the day, this is about one particular ancient law which comes down from British times. The 1894 Land Acquisition Bill, which many people consider one of the more obnoxious laws that is still prevailing right now, because it gives people a complete unfettered right, or governments at any rate, a free unfettered right to do what they want. Then that was sought to be changed by a law that the Rural Development Ministry came up with, which was a step in a certain direction, and then the Standing Committee came in and has changed that further. And even the Rural Development Ministry has now said, we move to the left, this is a step further to the left. Can I first start off by asking all of you, at the end of the day, whatever happens, whatever the changes are brought in now, do we all agree that the 1894 Act at any rate must go?
Yes, of course. We've always welcomed that, because the 1894 Act is just an anachronism in a democratic country like ours, because it gives some overarching powers to the state that without any word of explanation, etc., without defining public purpose in any specific manner, they can do pretty much what they like. And I think therefore that law, we welcome the new law and the fact that the government is trying to bring in a new law. The fact remains, however, that we have reservations.
Mani Shankar Iyer, is that something which you think the government is now going to push for? And let's face it, that commitment has been made by the UPA government. Rahul Gandhi made it repeatedly at Bhatta Parsol and in many other forums. The Congress has said and the UPA has said, we will bring a new land acquisition bill. And the country has been waiting for it from the winter session of Parliament. Is that going to come now, you think?
The 1894 Act was deficient in not having adequate provisions for the resettlement and rehabilitation of those who are going to be displaced as a result of land acquisition. But the obnoxious part of the Act came 90 years later, when in 1984, amendments were brought into the 1894 Act, which allowed rampant acquisition for any purpose at all, and was mostly directed towards enabling the private sector, sometimes in the guise of public-private partnerships, to acquire land that they should have been purchasing. So the new Act is designed, on the one hand, to bring some rationality into the process of acquisition, as also to make very stringent and strong provisions for rehabilitation and resettlement. So please don't make the fact of 1894 the evil thing, or the British Raj the evil thing. In fact, that Land Acquisition Bill Act back in 1894 said only government can acquire land, except in the case of railway companies.
Except that it left public purpose so loose that even in 1970s, in the 1980s, even before 1984, there was a lot of acquisition done where public purpose was left rather loose.
Well,
so it was misused even before 1984 is my point.
It's been mostly after 1984, and it's also after
1984.
No, it's also after 1984 that public resentment, especially in tribal areas, but also in many rural areas, has also come to the fore, because the acquisition in the interests of the private sector has been so rampant as to bring to some credibility the charge of crony capitalism.
All right. Sumitra Mahajan, will you be backing the government in its effort to bring a new land bill?
Yes, definitely, because it is necessary. First, you will find that land acquisition bill or land acquisition act was something different, and resettlement and rehabilitation was something different. In 2007 also, there were two separate reports were there. One is for rehabilitation and resettlement, and another was for land acquisition. Now they have brought both together, and definitely that will repeal the 1894 Act, which was only for land acquisition. So we are for that, no doubt. Now it should be repealed because it is such an old act, and now it should be repealed, and that's why we are for new act. Definitely BJP is also for new act.
Kamal Farooqi, in Uttar Pradesh, that's what really has, I think, lent a lot of impetus to the need to do something about it, because it was in UP and areas like Greater Noida, Bhatta Parcel, call it what you will, where some of the worst excesses came out into the public eye. I don't think these are the only excesses. Actually, people would argue that a lot of Naxalism and Maoist problems have come up because of the way that the land bill was being used. But UP, a lot of it was seen. So is this something which you're going to be backing fully?
Yeah, definitely. So what Mani Bhai has said, 1894 was bad, 1984 was the worst. And the way it has been used by some of the governments, we have seen it in UP. Hamare kisan the, they are the worst sufferer, and the acquisition has been used in the guise of the public purpose, and this public purpose again, even the committee has discussed it at length. But public purpose has to be defined, and this was taken up. The land from the poor kisans were taken and given to the property development at a very high price. So that means, number one, we are giving a disservice to our kisans, and we are unnecessarily trying to promote the builders, which is not the which should not be the case for any government. The kind of bill which is we are saying we will be very positively we will be considering when it will be placed there.
Okay. Pinaki, while all of that is so, would you agree with what is being said about the old bill? But do you still feel that there are things we need to worry about in finding something to replace it?
Right, there are lots of laws in India which are dating back to the 1860s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, which really need a very serious relook now in 2012. And this is no different. I think this is falls in that same class. My only point here is that there is no question that this whole issue of expropriation, as it were, under the 1894 law as well as the 1984 amendment certainly needs a revisit and a relook. But I think industry now will have very serious causes for concern. You know, speaking from a Odisha perspective, where we have all the mines and minerals, etc., and I've been a lawyer for many of these industrial houses which are trying to set up new units there, because with the new Land Acquisition Act that is in the offing, with the PESA, as you know, the Panchayat extension to Secured Areas Act, the Forest Rights Act, which I think Mani is well aware of, all the environmental laws which are now in place, with all the kind of consultation and permissions now required increasingly from Gram Sabhas, etc., and with this now consent envisaged under the new act, I think government will now seriously have to think out of the box solutions in order to help industry.
You're saying the standing committee has gone too far.
No, well, the standing committee has done what was needed perhaps in terms of the land owners, but you have to then balance the need of industry. The crony capitalism is one aspect of it, but at the end of the day, as members of parliament, Mani knows that every morning all that we get requests from 15, 20, 25 young youth who are no longer into agriculture. They have ancestral lands, but they don't want to go to agriculture. They say jobs in one of the big bustling industries that's come up in the state.
Do you have the NDTV Profit app? All the markets, all the news and your own homemade, ready-made portfolio available there for you.
We will right now answer what you should sell, what you should buy when markets are down.
Download at ndtvprofit.com/apps. Get the best app from the channel you trust.